This is my presentation about Mary Parker Follett. For those of you who are paying attention, you notice I'm still wearing the same shirt. That means I'm doing all these recordings in the same day. It does not mean that I wear the same shirt day after day after day at work. Now, let me get on to it. Mary Parker Follett is one of the unique persons in American management history. She had a very short kind of period of time in her life when she was highly prominent, and then she vanished into obscurity. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. But let me talk about her more personally first. First of all, you see this strange picture. This is the only picture I've ever been able to find of Mary Parker Follett. It shows up in management text. It shows up anywhere on Wikipedia. There aren't other pictures of Mary Parker Follett that I've ever been able to locate. I have a large biography of Mary Parker Follett, and this is the key picture. So she obviously was a person who didn't go around having her picture taken routinely. What I think is important about her, she was an absolutely brilliant observer of organizational and institutional life, and her set of observations about how organizations function, I think, are very valid today, more so than anybody else we've read so far. She was a major speaker in the international business circuit in the 20s and the early 30s. The readings you have include a number of lectures she did in London, at the London School of Economics. She was involved in board leadership in the settlement house movement. Now, you probably don't know what the settlement houses were, but when all these immigrants come to the United States, there were these settlement houses that were created as kind of transitional places for people to live for a period of time until they became more established into the society as a whole. And they were an important part of the process of integrating immigrants into American society. She was the author of 5 books, including one on the Speaker of the House. A study of the American Congress and the role of the Speaker of the House was written shortly after she graduated from college. That is, to many people, still seen as a very astute set of observations about the role of the Speaker of the House in Congress. I don't know how she ever chose that topic, but it's obviously what's there. What we're reading is not one of her books, but is a more recent collection of some key essays that she's written. We just talked about Frederick Taylor. Mary Parker Follett was a member of the local Taylor Society, so she was, like Frederick Taylor, committed to finding the one best way to get things done. But she had a lot of differences also. Context, again, she's writing between World War I and World War II. And so it's interesting to read somebody who talks about the world without knowing that the Second World War is coming. She, as a side note, she is quite critical of some of her writing about the kind of economic reparation structure that was set up after World War I, in which the German economy was essentially decimated in paying back reparations to France and others. She says that feels like it doesn't bode well for the future, and she was very right. During her period of greatest productivity, the economy was booming during the 20s, but there was growing labor unrest, and the whole role of management that Taylor started out with professionalization is really coming to fruition. There are all kinds of management societies. This is part of where she was giving lectures and so forth. She was also writing in a context where work roles are very closely related to gender. And it's almost painful to read this brilliant observer woman talk about men and girls in the workplace, and the men are always the leaders and the girls are always the followers. And the girl illustrations are often sort of inane and not very sophisticated. That's simply that's the era she lived in. So she's writing in that kind of context. What makes her very, very special, I think, is that she saw the flaws in the way we were thinking about management, the way Taylor thinks about it, with the leaders giving all the orders and the workers following those orders. She saw the flaws in that system from both a kind of practical point of view and a humanitarian point of view. She makes the point that says men don't like to be given orders. They like to have some independence. That's a kind of thing about what's fair to people. But she also says giving orders doesn't work very well. If you're just bossing people around, you're not going to get the benefit of what they know. So while one could argue that one could paint her as a kind of a nice person who's trying to treat people better, I think her bigger contribution is she sees the significant limitations of an authoritarian top-down workplace, and says if we want to find the best way to do things, we need a different approach. And her approach says you have to create that together rather than having somebody from the top create it for the people below them. She understood the circular nature of interaction, by which she means she understood that the way, if this is a class, the way I talk to you influences the way you talk to me, which influences the way I talk to you, and that we both create the kind of reality that becomes predominant in the workplace. It is not that one side has control. No matter how much authority there is, people on both sides of the organization have a lot of control. And by the way, we're going to watch a very interesting video called The Caine Mutiny. It was a classic World War II movie about a mutiny on a small ship in World War II. And it'll illustrate that circular nature very, very well. She also is well known for reframing the role of conflict in the workplace. And the Thomas Kilmann interested conflict mode instrument that we're going to use is one that relates closely to her work as a way of describing how people work on solving conflicts. So she made a number of major contributions.